All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you some better examples of what this project might look like. The project's called Looking for Sounds. It's very simple. You're looking for 20 sounds that you can record using a cell phone or any device that you have. And I just want to know what they are. So I did make a modification that if you can see what the source is, then it's not necessary to do a title. It's not that much work to do it, but it's not necessary if I can see what's making the sound. If not, and if it's in the dark, just be sure that you label it so I know what I'm listening to. The basic assignment, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I did 9 sounds in like 5 minutes. I did not do all 20, but 20 is the goal. And remember, it's criterion C, so variety, thinking outside the box is being scored here. Stretch yourself to try and find as many sounds as you can, and then you can cut them a little bit shorter because sometimes it takes a while. Here's the sounds that I got for this project. I'm gonna let you listen to them before I go on to another step. So I kind of went into this with the idea that I'm going into, giving you sounds from school. And actually, when I started doing it, I started realizing there's a lot of things that I had been listening to, and in a year I hadn't heard it. If you notice, I'm here in the audio section of Adobe. There are a lot of things that you can do to clean up sounds in Adobe, and I might as well show you them just so you can see. If you happen to have it, feel free to continue to tinker with it and just write in the notes what you tried, just so that I can know what I'm listening to. Sometimes a sound that starts out one way might end up another way. One thing I want to point out here is waveforms. And if you haven't heard this expression before, it's the representation. In this case, it's left and right stereo channels, so your left ear and your right ear. It's a representation of the sounds that you got. It's a pattern, essentially. And there's other ways to look at this. It's been a while since I've done this, but I think, I can't remember how I did it. There was another kind of a more abstract way of looking at a waveform, but this is a pretty straightforward way. You'll just see the spikes up there. So when you hear the sound, that's the ding. And a lot of times looking at the waveforms as an editor helps you sync up events with the visual that you want them to. And one of the ways to do that is on that particular waveform, you can actually add a marker in some cases, and I've done this before to try and help me do that. And there it is. And so basically it'll mark the point that you want to sync with another point in video, because eventually what you'll end up doing is using these sounds to score whatever film that you do. And when you want that sound to line up, one of the ways to do it is to help you line up with markers. And then if you put a marker on the video clip, you can end up snapping them together a little bit easier. It also gives you a chance to change volume levels. So you can change the volume level all the way up or all the way down. There's multiple ways to do this, and different programs have different ways. And then I think it's Control for Adobe. Maybe it's Shift. Apple there. Apple creates keyframes so that you can conceivably move the volume levels up and down throughout the clip, giving you some further customization of how that sound's going to play. Loud or soft, or descending or ascending. And you can do the same thing with background noises too. Like, for example, I noticed since it's COVID, all the fans are on 24/7. They stop at 8 p.m. and that's to keep air moving. So that's going to be a background hum. And when you do start getting to the level of audio where you're creating a background ambient noise, what that does is, as they said, it stitches together the scene so that you always hear the same thing in the background. When you're changing camera angles, you're changing the way that the room's going to be heard. And if a fan's behind the camera, it's going to be quieter than if it's in front of the camera. So if you want to experiment with that, you can create an entire background sound that's just ambient. Think a plane ride. You've got that sound of the plane in the background. That ambient sound is what, so what I'm trying to say. That ambient sound stitches together all the other scenes. And if you're doing it from a film perspective, you'd record that separate, and that would be a layer down below. For you, if you want to do music for the next project, you can, but just consider that idea of ambient sound for this. Then, whoa, it's a little loud. So then, if you have the ability, this is another opportunity for you to edit and play with sound. Now, let me just get this one out of the way. These are some of the basic changes. And this one, I think I heard, yeah, you heard that background noise. Sometimes you can do some edits. I haven't really done much with the sound effects edits. But what I have done a lot of are the edits that, oh boy, now I lost it. Our dialogue edits. And one really useful one is to clean up noisy dialogue. And again, what it should do to this clip, I didn't do it to the right clip, so let me try again. Clean up noisy dialogue. What it does is it gets rid of some of that fan noise. And if you can hear the difference between that, the fan is kind of muted and the emphasis is placed on the event. These two spikes completely changed. If I hit edit undo, you'll see that the spikes went up, and then I guess you could say the contrast between the event and the background is increased. So if I hit redo, you'll see that the spike went up, and the difference between the spike and the background noise, the distance is higher, which means that you're hearing mostly this and a little bit less of that. So again, each one of these things does something. You also have the ability to apply effects. And there's a whole suite of audio effects. I don't know what your editing system has. That's why I didn't really hit this too much. But there's a ton of audio effects that you could do. Some of them, like reverb, are subtle. Some of them are real wild. So it works really well for like a long, protracted sound like this. Might be that I choose, I think, oh boy, phaser. I'm gonna just try that. And then here's what it sounds like with the phaser applied without doing any kind of changes to it, just to see what it does without tinkering with the settings. Doesn't seem to have much of an impact on that particular one, but if I start tinkering, I'm likely to hear something change. That's just decibel gain. Try some more tinkers. All right, well, maybe that wasn't a good example. I should have had my example prepped. But the main point is, let's try flanger. Back on that one. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that phaser one because I'm not getting the kind of impact that I want to get. But I did replace it with a flanger. And that's a little bit more apparent to the ear. And again, all these sound effects allow you to do a lot of the work that we saw in the previous video, say, think Star Wars, where you're taking everyday sound effects and you're tweaking them in post to get them to be otherworldly. And the next level step of that, if you can, would be to do that. Now, if you do that, you're definitely looking for an 8, but also really just experimenting. But I don't want to make that the only way that you can get an 8 because not everybody has the ability. I'm just showing you what's out there because this is one of the tools that should be in your toolbox as a filmmaker, is to understand how to collect audio, to use audio, and to manipulate audio to be a big part of your film, because this is how it's done. This is all part of sound design. So that's all I have really to share with you is, and it's a lot to take in, but I did want you to see an example of what this project might look like when it's coming together. It's very simple. You know, if I had 11 more sounds and they were all very, very different, you're on the right track. If you want to play with some effects and tinker with it, it's a great opportunity for you to experiment and learn what all these do. You wouldn't want me to teach a class where I told you every single one. And honestly, I don't know it. And if I did, I probably wouldn't remember them in another semester, but you know, it's something there for you. I'm pointing you in the right direction. I'm not trying to tell you every single thing that can be done. But suffice it to say that there have been some really great examples in the last couple of years of people using these tools to get a great effect. And I think there's one kind of brewing in this particular class. So I look forward to seeing where that goes. Thank you for watching, and keep working on this part. This is due. We'll be using them for films next week.